So, why I don't trust Hollywood unions. And it's not like a general I hate unions type of thing. I've seen some weird, here's the cult of the company type stuff when it comes to bashing unions. No, I'm talking about Hollywood unions. And it's a very, very simple reason. Hollywood works based on recommendations. Hollywood has made numerous pieces of media explaining how it works, right? You have this fake nicety until some producer can come by and shoo off people who are pitching you a project. You have this and that. You have projects being dumped. You have as soon as someone new comes into a TV environment, he wants to push his stuff instead of focus on what makes money and blah blah blah. So already good TV shows are being forced, like The Nanny, the 90s. The Nanny, the couple from The Nanny basically was told, if you don't get them married, you're gonna get canceled. If you do get them married, you're gonna have to blah 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 something. So basically, in season 5 of The Nanny, Fran basically marries her boss, but it happens at quadruple the pace that it usually had. Their relationship kept up, like literally 7 times before they actually started dating. Literally 7 times they've kissed before they actually started officially dating. And then he was like, I love you, this plane's going down. And then he was like, blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to spoil The Nanny on you, right? So, you have this environment where everyone is in their own friend bubble, right? And you have this union. Let's say a union of actors or a union of writers, right? So this union of actors and union of writers, right? Your boss is part of your union. The people who control probably 1/3 of the decision making in Hollywood are part of the union that wants to force Hollywood to do stuff. That kind of seems ridiculous to me, right? Then there's the barrier to entry, where if you haven't done anything, not even small time work, where you, if you don't do an indie project, if you don't do a project without any sort of legitimacy, you're not counted as an actor, right? So if someone makes a little movie, like a Predator fan film, can you get counted as an actor or counted as a writer or something if you don't have it just doesn't make any sense. You have a high barrier to entry. You need to fit certain criteria, which you can only fit if people in power give you that option, right? The thing that people are complaining about is the way that people from 30 years used to get into the industry, but that's not how that works anymore. You're not going to become a background extra. just like that. No, that's not a realistic way to enter into Hollywood. You get a subscriber count, then you the studio asks you to be part of the background people, then you're in the background. That's how it works now. So it's a much easier barrier to entry, but it's also like there's no real difference between entering a project the way you're supposed to enter right now and like having digital copies of yourself. The thing about the copying a person's face thing, that's something that should have been resolved with a phone call. And when you listen to what people want and you hear something like DEI requirements or X number of people need to be hired per project, you're like, so 10 years ago, everyone was pushing streaming. I remember hearing people advertising streaming as an idea. The writers especially got excited for streaming. Now that streaming became the norm, like long form storytelling, that's what I'm talking about. Now that long form storytelling became the norm, you want to go back to the other method, which I think long form storytelling is okay, but they're framing it as though it's the money people who are the problem. But I'm not convinced that it's the money people that are the problem. I'm convinced that it's all these entourage bubbles, right? You have an environment of entourage bubbles that are echo chambers that tell the main person in the entourage bubble what they should think and how they should portray themselves. And it becomes a feedback loop. And that person at the head of the entourage bubble talks to other people in the entourage bubble, and that becomes its own loop. And that's the thing that we've been complaining about for years because of the shallow implementation of ideas that would have meant a lot, like 20 years ago. Diversity in media was an actual thing to talk about, but 20 years ago, people started solving that issue. Right? Now it's the exact opposite. Now you just have these shallow, pretentious, low effort situations that don't make any sense. Okay, so you don't have enough work, right? But it's like a couple of episodes, but it's like a show that's only a couple of episodes, but you are getting paid a significant sum of money to write for those episodes. So why the fuck don't you just do the work from home? You can get day jobs, you can work in other places. Like you don't need to be a full-time writer. Other people have to do seasonal work too, and other people are not trying to distill their own like workspace. And this whole like plead poverty, blah blah blah. Movies are collapsing. The Hollywood's profits have been fucking tanked, specifically by this oversaturation approach of give me everything I want. So like I'm sure there's some writers out there that have serious issues with how the money people run things, but instead of being specific about what the money people are doing, they're like, you wouldn't believe the stupid things that the money people wanted me to do when I tried to get this project going, blah, 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 blah. why can't I have millions of dollars to make my project work? And at the same time, I know that it's never been cheaper to make your own independent movie. I know this. I can make my own independent movie using my gear. I don't have the actors, and it would require guerrilla filmmaking and a little bit of, money, yeah, like 20, 30 grand. But like, realistically, I can make my own indie project. There's absolutely no reason why people would like it, like literally 10, like 15, 20 years ago, people were talking about the number of new movies exploding, like from a couple of hundred to a couple of thousands per year. Everybody's got the gear to make their own movie. I can even make one with a tripod and my cell phone and this Rode mic I'm using. And it would be fun. Like, I just need the actors. But like, these writers unions, I just can't trust them. You cannot trust the writers unions. You cannot trust the actors unions, because both the writers and the actors historically have told you ad nauseum that Hollywood is a place with bubbles and fakeness. And like, I'm so glad my mom died. The book, Madison Bear's, like, the half of it where she describes how people just, as soon as they couldn't make money off her, people just moved on, just moved on. There's these serious, it's like you have a bunch of different cults, and the cults that aren't being paid as much as they want to be being paid both want more money and aren't taking responsibility for their influence on the state of things. And at the same time, they want to make things worse by creating an artificial DEI requirement, even though everybody ad nauseum knows that DEI requirements are not realistic requirements, and they usually are just an excuse to hire someone political, have that person who's political bringing their friends who are, elite minorities, basically, and regurgitate the exact same profit-destroying bullshit. Like, you cannot just expect people to ignore the last decade of pop culture bullshit and just utterly dismiss everybody's criticism whenever you're complaining about people not supporting your unions. The world, human brains don't work like that. We see everything. We all have a library of knowledge. We know DEI is bullshit. We know you guys got yourselves into these masses with Hollywood. We remember you pushing long form storytelling like 15 years ago. We remember these things. We don't actually have a short-term memory of like 20 minutes or whatever. Like, we have actual brains and actual memories. And that's basically my problem with these Hollywood unions and actors, writers, animators. Like, if it was like 13 years ago when people were like, here's the issue with Pixel Gypsies, blah, 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 blah. And now the problem hasn't been solved, but all the new people who came into the industry knowing about 2012, the Tiger movie, and the Pixel Gypsy stuff, like we know that a lot of these people who are complaining about things are just people who thought, let's give it a shot, came into Hollywood without having any sort of plan, relied on people back home funding their behavior, behaved terribly, ruined the industry, pissed us off, didn't take accountability for their bad creative choices, called everybody who had a problem with their creative choices racist, sexist, and misogynist, and basically delved head first into this ocean of West Coast access media attitudes. And that's why I really, that's like my bias against writers unions, actors unions, animator unions right now. This isn't like 15 years ago. This isn't like 25 years ago. This is the now. I remember the last 25 years of pop culture. I remember the good parts and I remember the bad parts, and a whole lot of bad comes from these people who ruined the pop culture industries. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are just hardworking people doing their thing, but I know that at the end of the day, the people who basically decide the conversation are the stars who lead their in-groups in a certain direction. So if you're gonna have a strike and it's about pay, and then you have DEI in that as a talking point after DEI, which is not just a quota system, but it's a political way of hiring toxic people from access media to hire their friends from access media to create a political bias in all media, and we fucking know it because it's a very, very incompetent political bias, because these people don't really think about what they're saying. Well, cry me a fucking river, right? It's sad that some people are stuck on this thing, but it's never been cheaper to make your own movie and make your own TV show if you're willing to put in some amount of time, some amount of creative energy on actually doing the thing. You can make a YouTube channel, describe what you want to make, describe who you're looking for, find people, set up a chat room, figure it out, and basically wing it and make like a prototype version of your project. Then, if that's successful, step, and figure something out. And eventually you're gonna hit a streaming service. And it's not gonna pay as well as you might want it to pay, but like it would be infinitely better than just sucking up to some rich guy being pretentious about his politics. If the money people are as bad as you say, fuck the money people, become the money people. You know? It annoys me.